In this video, we are going to take care of that loose hair at your roots. Even when you have mature dreads, you're still going to have some loose hair at the roots, so you're going to need to know how to take care of it. Fortunately, it's actually pretty easy to take care of, especially if you have the right tools. The tools that we're going to use in this video are going to be the lock pepper and the dread tool, and some rubber bands. But you don't need all of those things. Actually, you can do it without any of those things. But you'll see they really do help a lot. So let's get started. Now, in this video, the loose hair has already been found, and it's rubber banded to the dread that it needs to go into. Normally, that's one of the hardest parts of taking care of the loose hair, is figuring out where it goes. Usually you get loose hair on the section line, so half of it is supposed to go in one of the dreads, and the other half of the loose hair is supposed to go in the other dread. And you know, if you can't see it because you're working on your own dreads like that, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So usually you end up standing in front of a mirror, and that gets old real fast, you know, because your hands are up here like this, and the blood's draining out of them, and I don't know, no fun. All right, so here's a pretty good solution. If you can find somebody that you can bribe into helping you locate and separate the loose hair, that's going to be your best bet, okay? They don't actually have to dread ball it. They can rubber band it to the dread that it goes to. And then, when you're sitting there watching your favorite movie with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, I'm obsessed with the movie Fight Club, I'm sorry. You can take off the rubber band, dread ball, and put it in. Slide it off, dread ball, stick it in the dread, and we're going to go over that in just a second. And that works great. Otherwise, you have to stand in front of the mirror the whole time, and you look like a male peacock checking your dreads out, but really you're not. The point is, it's a lot quicker to put the hair in than it is to find it and separate it and stuff like that, especially if you don't have a mirror in front of you. And when you're watching TV, you're usually not watching it in front of a mirror, unless you're like practicing your faces. I don't do that. I'm sure you don't either. So, after you've located and separated your loose hair, the next step is to dread ball it. This is real easy. You start out by dipping your fingertips in some lock pepper. And now you can say peppa or pepper, okay? It just depends on how white you're feeling that day. Roll it around in a ball between your thumb and your forefinger, starting at the tips of the hair. And you just kind of roll it in a clockwise motion, pinching it with your peppery fingers. And you'll work your way down the length of the hair. And it'll start to knot up, all right? Now, you don't want it to get as tight as you can get it, okay? If you're using the lock pepper, it's going to get tight really fast, and you don't want it to get tight yet, all right? You want to work your way down the length of the loose hair, adding more hair to it, and you'll create like a puffy little wad of knots, okay? And it looks like that, you know, it looks different than a tight little ball, okay? Then when you get near the base of the dread, near the roots, then you're going to tighten it up a little bit, okay? But you're not going to get it really tight. The idea here is that you want it to actually tighten after it's inside the dread, because the other ends of loose hair that it's going to be in contact with will actually get stuck in it. And then as it tightens, it's going to tighten to them. And that's going to prevent the dread ball from popping back out. You want to make sure that you leave some length between the ball and the roots, okay? Some straight hair there. And the reason is because you're going to need some length when you pull it into the dread. Otherwise, it's going to stay right there at the roots. Now, if you're putting it in with your fingers because you don't have a dread tool yet, it's okay to get it down pretty close to the scalp. But if you're using the dread tool, you probably want 3/4 to an inch of hair because you're going to pull it up into the dread nice and far. So when you get your dread ball down near your roots, then you're going to want to grab it with the dread tool and pull it into the dread. Where you stick your tool in is important. It has to do with the length. If you have a longer dread ball, you're going to stick it in further from the roots. If you have a shorter dread ball, you're going to stick it in, quit smiling, you're going to stick it in closer to the roots. You want to make sure that when you stick it in and pull it through, there's enough distance so that the dread ball can get all the way inside the dread and then some.
Over here, not right there, okay? Don't penetrate too close.
Hook it like this and just pull it down, okay? Just to get it in there. Doesn't really matter what angle you go in. After it's hooked, then you can like tilt it up and push it, and you'll push it all the way in and then start gathering the dread on the hook as you work your way towards the roots. Now, if your dreads are a lot thinner, they're not going to usually be quite that tight, especially if they're really thin. Really big, thick dreads, they get so tight that it's hard to get your tool in. Damn. So anyway, you get it in there, and then you start pushing it towards the roots, okay? And you'll have to put your fingers on either side and kind of, keep pushing it towards the middle. So we're pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down.
Pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down.
All right, and then it's going to pop out. There it goes. So I got it out. All right, now this is where you would hook your dread ball on the end of the tool, okay? So this is supposed to be the roots right here, like the scalp and the roots, okay? So you'd wrap the dread ball around the end of the tool, and then you close the latch. Now you got to make sure that you push it out far enough to get the latch past all the hair, okay? Because if it's not past all the hair, when you try to flip up the latch, you're going to grab hair from here, and then when you pull it back through, it's going to hurt. So don't say I need more. So you got the dread ball in there, okay? And then you start pulling it through the dread, and usually like twisting it back and forth like that. That really helps a lot. Okay, so now you start pulling it back, but don't pull it all the way out. Having enough length is going to help prevent pulling it all the way out, but you could still do it. But you don't want to. You want to pull it into the dread until the dread ball and that loose hair is fairly tight, and then you want to push the loose hair tool through the side of the dread and out. Sometimes you have to twist it a little bit more when you push it out the side, because this latch is actually opening while it's inside the dread. And when it does, it's going to leave the dread ball in there, which is really cool. That's where you want it. So after it pops out, you need to make sure you flip the latch up, because otherwise when you try to pull it back through, it's going to get stuck. Okay? So now you pull it out, and your dread ball is stuck in your dread, and you can't see any loose hair, and you probably can't even feel it in there. It's like magic. Alright? That's good stuff. Okay, and then the last step is to palm roll it. And that'll help that hair start locking around the hair inside the dread so that it doesn't come back out later. Okay? And, it's going to lock together, and it's going to become part of the dread. It's going to become part of the dread. It's not just like a dread ball stuck in there. Eventually, it actually locks up, and you got a beautiful looking dread then. It's just as good as if the hair had found its way in there and locked up all by itself. Now, if you're not using a dread tool, you're going to have to stick it in right at the roots and just kind of make a little hole with your finger and push it in there and then kind of finger rub it to get it to stay, and you like maybe put a rubber band around it, and you can actually put a little bit of wax on there too if you want. The dread tool is way more permanent. It's never going to pop back out, and honestly it's easier, so I totally recommend that if you can get one of those. If it's not in the budget, man, I understand. Let me know, like for Christmas or something, and I'll see what I can do. So, that's good. Now I'm going to play you guys a little song.